So we're talking about inclusivity for events, and this is how we're going to round through it. So it's going to be roughly 5 tips about how to make your event a bit more inclusive. So in the context of Heritage Week, inclusivity is really about making it so that as many people as possible are able to participate in your event, and so that regardless of who they are or what challenges or barriers they might be facing, they can still come and take part, and most importantly, have a good experience. And now the good news, because that does sound like a big task, but very small actions on your part can really build up to make a huge difference. So first off, we want you to think about your event from the viewpoint of somebody else. So your idea for your event might work perfectly for you, but what about somebody else? What barriers might exist? What might they need? So we're going to talk now about ways to help you think about this and hopefully come up with some solutions. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is who? Who typically comes to your events? Anyone that has any experience with marketing, you'll know that marketers use this technique where they try and think of who is their ideal customer. So they talk about their demographic, what age are they, what sort of job do they do, how much free time do they have, all these kind of things to think of who is their customer. And you can do the same thing with the people that are coming to your events. So you can build a picture of who are the people that attend your events. So once you've got all those people in mind, you might want to start thinking about the next question, which is, who's not there? Who's not coming to the table? So you might already have some ideas about who's not there, what types of communities are not there, individuals, people with particular barriers to access. You want to really think about why they're not there and what you can do to help them. That's really the basis for everything. So when you're brainstorming this within your group, it can be useful to think about different age groups. Are we missing younger people or older people, or is it all very much one or the other? Do we want more of a mix? Do we want families coming in? Other demographics you can look at: gender, age, background, their life stage, their employment status, so many different options. And it's a great way to just get yourself thinking more about your event and how it might be presented to different groups of people. So before your event, you want to find those people that you're looking to involve and invite them personally. Don't be passive. This is something where you should really be active and go out and engage with people directly. So that's the most important piece of advice that can be given about how to make your event more inclusive. It's the power of the personalized invitation. You know yourself, if you're going to something, if you just get sent a random email telling you about an event, that's great, but there's so much more power in somebody directly messaging you or picking up the phone or coming to see you and saying, this event is on, we'd love to have you there. It just makes you feel that little bit more thought of and that little bit more special, and it can have a huge, huge impact. So by asking people to be included, to participate and to be involved and to attend, or better yet, to advise you, that can really, really help to get them involved. And it's a great way to get you reaching out locally or beyond your own local area as well. So really what we're talking about is finding the people to include and not being passive about it. So start thinking about who are the groups and communities local to your event. Contact them, get in touch with them directly and tell them about your event and invite them along. And as I said earlier, maybe even ask for their input. Ask what it is that they could use, because it's all well and good if you're sitting in your group of people who there's no wheelchair users in your group and you're going, well, this is what a wheelchair user might need. Better yet, ask somebody who is living as a wheelchair user, what is it that they need? What are things that people typically get wrong? How can you make it better for them? Because nobody's going to advise you better than the people that are living through this themselves. There's a whole load of community groups that you can contact as well for getting more information out there. So a lot of them you'd be familiar with already. So you've got your men's sheds, ICA, Tidy Towns groups, youth centres, Sea Scouts, community centres, museums, galleries, libraries. The libraries are great hubs for community activity as well. And even your supermarkets or your parish halls and churches, anywhere that might have a notice board where you could put up information asking people for their input. So then you're going to give your invite and you're going to follow up afterwards, because that's a very important thing as well. And like I said before, the best thing you could do is ask people how you can help them, what it is that they need from you. So the key here is that to make your event more inclusive, you really need to think about who might be missing. Take those steps to seek out and personally invite those people, and through groups and communities and the networks that already exist in your local area, find a way of getting to know them. So the next really important tip is that information powers inclusivity. So what does that mean? So be clear so that people know what they're heading into. A lack of information can really be a barrier to inclusivity. So once you're organised, make sure that you tell people what your event will consist of and the accommodations that you're including, so that people can plan accordingly. It might be worth asking yourself, what do people have to do in order to participate in the event that you're planning? What are you asking of them? Sometimes big group events like this, they can be quite intimidating for people. In a room that's got bright lights and a lot of sound going on, there can be sensory issues for people as well. It might be quite physically demanding too. I mean, I know it's hard to sit in a seat, and it's nice when you've got a table in front of you to lean on, but a lecture hall can be quite difficult to sit in. Factor in some breaks, things to make things a little bit easier for people. Some things, it might be useful to include different parts of your event. So a talk with mingling afterwards, workshopping with a little exhibition, showcasing an event or a tour, and have drop-in sessions, things to get people chatting, because people learn in different ways as well, and people absorb information in different ways. So think about how you can work that around all the different kinds of people. Some people need visual aids, some people prefer just a direct speaking approach, some people like interactivity. So lots of different things that you can get going. And the most important thing is get these conversations started, because there's huge power in having a chat. And as we all know, the Irish love chatting almost as much as we love tea. So really, like, the power of a cup of tea, sitting down with someone over a cup of tea and having the chats and really getting on a personal one-to-one basis. What is it you need from me? What can I do to make you feel welcome, to make you feel like the barriers are lessened for you? Just ask them. This thing, really, the crux of it is speaking to people directly. So the next thing that you're going to think about are the physical barriers that might exist. So where is your event taking place and how accessible is it? And keep in mind, accessibility, if it's not a barrier that you face yourself, there's things that you just won't see. So again, it's that power of asking somebody who is dealing with the barriers so that they can tell you exactly what it is that they would need. So is it car-only access? Can public transport get people there? Not everyone can drive or has access to a car. Is there parking? Is there a cost for parking? All of these things can be barriers. Is it step-free? Are there stairs? And is there wheelchair access? Are the aisles wide enough? Is there a side door? Is everything clearly labelled so people can find their way? Do you have enough seats for everyone? Are the light levels okay? Can everyone see the person who's speaking? Can people hear okay? Even if they're sitting down the back, is it just as clear as if they're sitting up the front? Is the room a comfortable temperature? You don't want it being too hot or stuffy. What's the situation with the loos? Are there accessible loos? Are there enough loos for the people that you're bringing? Some other information that can help is if you're having an outdoor element to your event, it can be really helpful to remind people that they may need to dress warmly, what kind of footwear they might need. If you're using a trail, it's really helpful to know what kind of terrain you're going to be facing into. So does the trail get mucky underfoot? Do people need to keep the recent weather in mind? Is there much elevation? What distance will you be asking people to travel? And how much time do you expect it to take? Is the trail suitable for children or wheelchair users, mobility aids, prams, all these kinds of things? Could you put an event in a space that's used by and already familiar to the group? So that can be a great way of helping people to feel a little bit more comfortable coming along. So if there is a community hall that a group you'd like to include are already using, they're already going to be familiar with how to navigate around that space. So it just makes that a little bit easier for them. And again, as always, like it says there, ask the groups themselves what it is that they need. More things to think about are the time of day. So that's going to impact who can attend. Not everybody can take time off work to attend events in the middle of the day. People who have small children at home, they might have childcare issues, or if they're caring for older relatives or partners, all these sorts of things that might come into play. Signage and information, you want to make sure that it's clear, that it's at eye level using plain fonts, large fonts, and that there's a good contrast between the colours of the background and the font, just to make it a little bit easier to read. You might be able to also arrange some sort of translation, so sign language interpretation, subtitles if you're doing something online, and then if you can make things available online for people to watch back if they didn't feel like they got all the information at the time, that can be really helpful too. And wheelchairs. We've talked about accessibility for wheelchairs, and this might sound really obvious, but if a venue is telling you, yes, we have wheelchair access, go and check it out first and just make sure that it's actually suitable for the needs. I don't know how many times I've gone to a place and there's a wheelchair ramp, but it's at this massive angle and you're going, geez, that'd be hard to get up yourself on your own 2 feet, never mind to push a wheelchair up. So it's still not suitable. So just make sure that it is actually as accessible as it's being purported to be. For more information as well, you can contact the National Disability Authority or you can contact ALIA directly. And also you can research approach the individual charities for advice on best practice, how to contact the communities you're looking to get in touch with or what helpers they might need. And if you have any volunteers in your group that might be able to help out on the day as well, some people might physically need a bit of assistance, or there might be somebody from that group or community who would have they could have somebody in mind already that generally comes and helps them along. So talking about your content and communicating, another way to be inclusive is through the actual content of your event. So include people who are normally, I won't say forgotten about history, but they haven't been the main players in the history we would have all grown up with. But of course they were always there. So could your event reference or include different groups or communities or cultures or traditions? So for instance, LGBTQ people, historic immigration, parallels with other countries that you might see or communities. So these stories and traces of diversity, they're always there, but you just have to look for them. And as I said earlier, with your communications, people absorb information in different ways, so just make sure you're offering a lot of different solutions there. Again, in terms of your content, you want to think about your language. So it can be really useful to think about the type of language that you're using. Make sure it's clear, concise, short sentences are better than long ones, and avoid using jargon or acronyms. Because when you do that, you're assuming a certain level of knowledge that is already there, and you can't really take that assumption when you're inviting people into a new situation that might already be a little bit intimidating for them. And options just in general, so providing lots of different ways for people to take part in your event. Even those very small adjustments, they will all build up towards increasing the inclusivity of your event. So, final point in summary, just to reiterate the importance again of seeking out those you wish to include, make that personal invitation, form the relationship, and most importantly, be proactive wherever you can. That's all that listed there for you again. You can get more information and send any questions that you may have to Alia. I'm sorry I won't be a huge amount of help to you in this, but if you want to catch me at the break as well, I can pass on these details to you if you've missed them. So thank you very much.